Hello, hello, everyone. Kenyon here, Basketball Rewind, and we are just pumping out that content. I am probably going to film another one today. This is just a 2 for 1 day, but you are going to get that one in the future. Right now, I'm going to be talking to my guest, Mr. Curley from Live by the Three. What can I say? Number one, I need to apologize to him because the first time that I was on his podcast, I had terrible audio. Great conversation, but terrible audio. And I've since improved. I hope he could hear me now perfectly. But I think
Perfectly.
what's more important, it's perfect. I think what's more important right now is that I get his thoughts because he is one of the people, as you can tell from his background, he is a staunch Darko fan. No, more importantly, Toronto Raptors fan. And I'm going to get his thoughts on the overall season, a few things and thoughts about just really the off season and, to be honest, the playoffs, because playoffs are going on in the background behind us. So, with that being said, uh, Curly, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. Just to quickly touch on the playoffs, I think this has been the most exciting playoffs in a while. I don't think I've been this pumped or locked in since the 2019 run. Like it's been entertaining. I mean, NBA without drama would not be the NBA, missed calls, double dribbles not being called, fouls not being called. That's just how the NBA rolls. But it's been exciting, man, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I'm just waiting for the moment that the Raptors can re-enter that playoff picture.
Yeah, well, one step at a time, we will get there. We will surely, but slowly but surely get there. I think one of the things that I'm noticing about the playoffs right now, actually, usually we talk earlier in leading into the playoffs. So I should actually ask you, did you predict this type of situation on either conference?
OKC, yes.
Okay.
Pacers, Knicks, no. I did not anticipate that. But that's what you love about the playoffs. It's like another season. It's a new season. Everybody starts at zero,
Right.
and there weren't some surprises. Like I'm not surprised that Cleveland didn't go that far. I thought they're. I told everybody they were frauds. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Cleveland fans, but you had a great starting lineup, but they had no bench depth. And I think what you're seeing right now, especially with the last four teams, maybe to a lesser extent with the Minnesota Timberwolves, depth is everything. You gotta have a deep bench, and while the Knicks play a short rotation, they do have some capable bodies. The Pacers also have very much capable bodies, and they utilize them. OKC 1 through 12 is a threat to hit the floor, but Minnesota, they have maybe about 7, 8 guys at most, and you see what heavy minutes is doing to the team, and I think the Knicks are falling victim to that right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things that I'm noticing about the Knicks, this will relate back to, overall Raptors talk for me, but I'm noticing that, and I've been complaining about this for a while. Teams in general, Pacers last year were the culprits of this. Is I won't say bad point guard play, but point guard play that does not distribute the ball enough. There are times when it's a little bit. It's almost like Jalen Van Vliet, rather than really feeding the big man cat. I mean, they have. I mean, I'm not the biggest cat fan, although I'll sound like it in a second. But they have a guy who was Gatorade All American, Gatorade Player of the Year, which that list includes like LeBron James, Dwight Howard, I think Kevin Love as well, and a whole bunch of other guys, and Grady Dick, of course. And it's a big list, right, of really, really high end athletes, and he's on there, and he's had a phenomenal career. He's like always a double double machine, always one of the best driving, and if not the best driving big man in the league. So offensively versatile, and yet it's like, okay, Brunson has 20 shots, and he will have like 8 to 10 at points in the game, and it's like you gotta keep feeding guys.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's the point guard responsibility to not only look for yours, but find that balance between looking for yours and looking for others, right? And if you don't got it going, then your job at that moment is to play make until you can find yourself in an opportunity to get yourself in rhythm. So no, I wholeheartedly agree with that. That you see the differences, especially, I know we're straying away from the Raptors a little bit, but you see that the ball distribution among the Knicks is very different among the Pacers. And
Yeah.
it's no surprise that, they're currently leading the series and currently beating the Knicks by 9.
Now, the one thing that I will say that is frustrating to me, moving still within the point guard conversation, is I look at teams like the Pacers and them too. It's like sometimes I'm like, can we just operate with your two best players? Can we just do a couple sets with that? I mean, at the end of the game last game, and I no shade against Neesmith, but Neesmith's 2 of 8. Neesmith's not like the other guy that's cooking. Give it to Siakam. I don't understand. It just sometimes I don't know if it's an overthinking of the game or sometimes a younger team with a point guard who's young. He's been in some battles, but young. Maybe he gets a little bit excited, but it's one thing that they need to get better at. So I think one of the craziest things for me is I did predict that if people go back to my original prediction, not my uh, second round prediction. My second round prediction, I didn't realize that the Cavs were injured, so I changed my prediction about the Pacers, and I said that the Pacers would lose. And then as soon as we finished filming, I was like, oh, he's gone. I was like, oh, I made a mistake. But my original thing was the Pacers meeting the Celtics in the conference finals.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that would have been just as entertaining, but I
Yes,
mean,
and OKC, of course.
yeah, of course, yeah. You know what? I've dubbed, and this could be a hot take. Hopefully you don't lose subscribers, but I look at the Pacers right now, like the way that they're built, the way that they are so, point guard motivated and driven,
Hmm.
similar to what OKC is with
Hmm.
Shea. Like Shea is the motor of that team. That's what Halliburton is, and they have a bunch of versatile players going up and down the lineup. So I basically dubbed the Pacers the Thunder of the East, but I
Well,
don't, I don't think that's really out of pocket.
let me put it this way. There's a few years ago, probably about two, and I was talking to a young man on Spaces, and had me convinced that Mr. Halliburton, who I'm perfectly fine with, was better than Shea, and I'd like to say that I've been proven correct on that. Um,
I
I
would
tried to
I
tell
would
him.
say so. I would say so.
I'll say
And
the same thing I said on Twitter the other day about Siakam. Sometimes you got to pop out and show people, and Shea
yeah,
has been doing that.
absolutely. And for the record, no way or shape or form I'm saying Halliburton is on Shea's level.
Oh no
I'm
no
just
I know
talking
no
I'm
I you're
I'm
good, you're
talking
good.
about
You're talking
built
about the way that they're building on depth
and
and
they're
stuff like
building.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, you're good, you're good.
Just clarifying, I am pro Shea.
Oh man, yeah, no. No, I mean it's so I just find it really interesting, and also just while yes, the Pacers did build um from the middle. They actually were originally going to completely blow that puppy up. But the thing that is interesting about how they've built specifically is they were patient and made the right moves for even young players like Halliburton at the right time. And their timing with these things has been really, really impressive. So, kudos to both teams. Hope my hope is that they meet in the middle, and from there, I honestly, either way, I'll be happy because from one end it's Shea, from the other end it's there's some other guys that I think that deserve some more love, and I'll just leave it at that. So, um, of course, we it wouldn't be the playoffs without talking about Ant. And to your point, you mentioned the lack of depth, and I think the challenging thing for the Minnesota, I almost said Vikings for whatever reason, the Minnesota Timberwolves is really, to me, the fact that after Conley, sticking with point guard play, you have a little bit of Rob Dillingham, but they're still looking for that backup. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or what, but yeah.
It is interesting, which kind of makes it a little bit more obvious why they made the Randall trade. Because I mean, not saying that he's a
Kentucky for
playmaker, he's a point
Kentucky.
guard, right? But he does some of the ball handling and facilitating. Is he an improved facilitator? I would say the margins is slight on that, but he has the ability to bring up the floor where, an aging point guard and a Mike Conley might not be able to handle a heavier workload. So, which
Yeah.
is why I think, there's been a lot of an experimentation with and handling and facilitating and playmaking as well. Same with Randall. But I'm with you. It is very interesting that they still haven't addressed that issue, and they do have a young point guard. But I think this it's a safe bet to play Conley over a Dillingham. But I think the struggle that Minnesota is having right now is whether they want to grow things or organically, or if they're trying to keep up with the rest of the teams, because they were up and coming too, and then before the Randall Cat trade, they were right on the cusp of something special, and then they gambled on Randall, and it has worked out. You really can't argue with the results. It was a little shaky at first, but they're in the Western Conference Final now. But you're really seeing that they might have peaked.
Well, here's the interesting. This is my thought, right? And you mentioned the peak word. I hear what you're saying, and I do think that it worked out in some ways for both teams. However, having a guy, I always talk about guys who can punch up, right? Cat can punch up to 40. Randall ain't doing that. Randall punched down to 1 of 7. And so it's
Yeah,
like,
that's tough.
you know what I mean? Like, it's like, and beyond always what he's on, he always talks about, your 3 guys, my 3 guys, that sort of thing. And it's like the other day, it's like, okay, so your number 1 guy didn't have it going. Fair enough. I'm not gonna harp on that too much. But your number 2 guy, Randall, it's like he had to have more than what he had to kind of keep up to even their number 2 or 3 guy. And so it's I think that that's what's missing. But the other thing that I would say is Rudy Gobert strongly disagrees with you, because I remember there was a game against the Raptors or this season where he purposefully got a 3-second call, calling for the ball, asking for Randall, and Randall was like, I don't know if you remember that. It's been a long season, my friend.
Yeah, we do remember that. That's pretty funny.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, I think that it's worked out. And I think this is where, I'm going to jump actually a little bit further from where I was, but this is where I think ownership changes make interesting dynamics. To your point, the Kings were on the cusp of something, and they made a financial move where it's like, okay, you were almost like, what are we doing here? And that's no shade to Randall. It's more like
Oh, you,
just
you
the,
mean you mean the Wolves, not the Kings. The
sorry,
Wolves.
but well,
Yeah,
both,
yeah,
I guess.
Well, actually, yeah, valid, very much
Both made
valid.
puzzling moves.
Yeah,
But yeah, the Kings probably more so.
yeah.
But in terms of the Wolves, and just to kind of bring it back full circle to the Raptors, with obviously the deal with Bell getting solidified. How does that affect things when you literally have a situation whereby we have raised ticket prices? People went to what is it, the season ticket renewals have been down by a considerable margin. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. We didn't have the best year by most people's measures, I think, if we're being fair. And so, yeah, like where does that leave you with moving forward? I mean, I won't say it's a completely new ownership group, but it's a new ownership dynamic, we'll say.
Well, sometimes change is a good thing.
Mm.
You know,
Sorry, I
um,
said I wouldn't ask you the tough questions.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's all good, but I mean, sometimes change is a good thing, and
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't work out. And I think right now with the Raptors, kind of, you know, finally getting down to a direction, building around a player, whether people feel that he's a franchise player or not, but uh, finding players to help unlock Scotty Barnes' skill set. And I mean, there's been a lot of reminiscing on Twitter lately about what this team could have been, and I think you and I had talked about the possibility of Pascal and Scotty being a tandem moving forward, and you're seeing how much Pascal has elevated Tyrese Halliburton's play. And Scotty was an all-star when Pascal was here, right? But not trying to be fixated on the past, but they saw glimpses of what Scotty could be, and I guess they felt it was comfortable to build around him. And while we can agree or disagree, and I'm talking about the fans, I know you and I are on the same page with this, it wasn't the cleanest way to go about things, but now they have a direction, and now they're slowly but surely putting being active rather than being reactive with putting the team together. And on paper, it definitely appears to be an entertaining product. And, we're in the draft again, in the lottery. And, historically, the ninth pick has been kind to the Raptors. So I think with the change, there's a lot of excitement around this team. However, I think we're going to have to be patient because we don't know what direction this ownership is going to go in. We also still don't have a concrete solution to this roster. There's still holes, there's still some flaws that need to be addressed, and I'm sure we're gonna touch on it. But it's trending more positively than negatively. I guess is the position that I'm taking right now. What are your thoughts?
So I came away from the season just feeling very confused. That's
I think we all were.
you
You
know,
know,
there are some things that we got some answers on, but I still think that there are questions, and some of the main glaring questions that we have weren't really answered. And so, from a directional standpoint, where you're saying like they picked a bit of a direction, I guess, to speed up the rebuild, I still have questions of like, you know, what does that mean? Because, for example, you speed up the rebuild, you're trying to sell off players, to create space or whatever, or get assets or et cetera, et cetera. But then it's like you feel bad for a guy like Chris Boucher. It's like, why is this dude still here? Right? Like it's like, they played him for 6 extra games that they didn't need to and then just shut him down. Um, you have people saying Scotty Barnes is a good soldier. I'm not saying he's not, but on the flip side, it's like he played the 65 games, yet Pirtle is here in presser saying, well, the boss don't want me to play. So so it's like, well, which is it? Like for me, I'm more so confused. I do think that there are pathways. I think I outlined that in my on a Twitter thread regarding Brandon Ingram. There are pathways to make it work. It's not easy for any coach, and I think Darko is still learning. He will definitely, have his hands full.
there's a reason why this
Um,
background's still up.
I think for me, yes, my biggest question is how is development going to work moving forward? Because Scotty Barnes should not be the primary developmental project anymore. He's a fifth-year player on a new contract. Any development for him needs to be done in the offseason. And I don't know if I see him still getting purposeful force-fed reps when you have Brandon Ingram here, who literally said in his presser, these cats say they're going to make me an all-star.
Yeah.
So that's where I get to. There are some positives. I haven't really talked about them. Thought, I liked the pick of Jacoby. I liked how he came on through the season. I do wish that he played a bit more, but I understand, the Bruce Brown of it all, and, the Davion Mitchell. I had no slight against Davion Mitchell, actually. I just saw Davion Mitchell, and then it's like they just traded for this dude, and then they just picked his, like, replacement. And it's like, are they really going to pay Davion Mitchell or not? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that they're not. They didn't. So fair enough. So that's kind of where I'm at. Is I almost felt I wish that we waited a year. Like if you hypothetically, if Brandon Ingram was available next season and you could acquire him next season, that would have been perfect to me. Because I just wanted to go through a true full year of rebuild in my mind. And I didn't get to do that. Although I know that fans would kill themselves doing that.
Well, here's the thing, being witnesses to the MLSE, it's a business at the end of the day, right? They
Yes.
wanna keep bums in seats, right? So, I'm with you. The season was definitely confusing.
Yeah.
Um, It is clear that the Raptors, and history has dictated that the Raptors are opportunistic, and they saw an opportunity to flip Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk for Brandon Ingram, existing around the same age group that the Raptors are currently wanting to exist in. Um, so while I do understand and definitely appreciate the hesitation to trade for a player and accelerate the rebuild, I think it's a nice young player. It's you can argue if it's a bit of a risk, given his injury history and whatnot. But I think they saw an opportunity where, yeah, Scotty's not gonna have those reps. Scotty's like the experimentation is over, right? This point guard Scotty,
I,
point four.
I personally would hope so because I think you can optimize him by putting him in certain spots that I've been asking for since Precious Achua was attempted in as a post up in those same.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that was the reason why Brandon Ingram has been brought in. So Scotty can be put in these positions to be more successful, but more importantly, efficient and effective. So at least on paper, the team looks good. I still think the real question is this team going to be healthy enough finally that we're actually going to see it? But I'm
Yeah,
with you. I don't agree with the idea of raising ticket prices at this time. I know Masai kind of alluded to it, but I think they're trying to really sell us on what this team could be. But I think we've
yeah.
also seen this story before where the team has underperformed historically, and it's a tough pill to swallow given the talent that we have and given the talent that we have homegrown, with Fred, OG, Pascal getting success or finding success elsewhere, being NBA champions in the process. I think my biggest concern, and I think you're saying it without actually saying it, is are you going to be in a position to do two things at once again? Are you trying to win and trying to develop?
Yeah, because listen, I'm where were you on May 12th? I believe was it May 12th or 13th, the night of the lottery.
Oh, I was following the live stream. Shout out Raptors Republic. I was following the live
Mm-hmm.
stream, and then I made it home finally to see that the Raptors landed on the ninth pick and that Dallas was still lingering in the
Right.
wings. Like that's where I was.
Did you see Masai's face?
Oh yeah, I think
He was
everybody in
not
Toronto.
happy.
I think everybody in Toronto had that same
he
face. But yeah,
he was not happy with that.
yeah.
So I know some people were like, "Oh, he was comfortable." No, he was. This ain't
No,
what he wanted.
that boy miserable.
So to me, it's obviously from just an impact standpoint. The perception is as someone who is top four in this year's draft is going to be able to give you a higher level of impact and insert themselves, regardless of the positional need or not, into the starting lineup. Picking ninth is still good, but you're not quite. They might need a little bit seasoning, a little bit of marination. Let's say
Definitely.
the question that I have is this: like, I'm trying to put it in the right way. You talked about a little bit of two things at once, but are you going to get to January and you're fighting for the play-in spot, but you're not giving the rookie time? Or are we going to be punching a little bit above our weight because maybe it's a soft schedule early on, you know, so you're able to kind of, say you get Boston a bunch of times in the early, in the early part of the season, you start off and you're like, I don't know, 10-5 or something like that. In best case, I mean that would be awesome. Honestly, maybe that's a little bit too high, but you know, 8-6, we'll say that's a little
Yeah,
bit. That's fair. Okay, so we're above 500. Uh, that you know what I mean? Like that, it's easier to play the rookies. Like it could be, and I'll get to. I want to know what names you're thinking of or whatever, but that's a different type of set of circumstances that you're building for this team. And no one can really give us the answer except for Nostradamus, who's not here. Yeah.
No, no, it's true, and I think that that's pretty much where the Raptors have existed for the last couple of seasons. It's
Isn't that weird though?
it is it is, but
Like
it's like
every year feels like the most like impending off season for of all time. It's like I don't know if this is a normal thing that most franchise fans feel.
no, I definitely feel that we definitely lead in that department.
In anxiety.
Yeah, yeah, you know what I mean, and every off season is an important off season,
This
and I think.
podcast is brought to you by Cam H. Uh,
But no, but you're absolutely right, and I
yeah,
think part of the reason why is that they they couldn't decide what they wanted to do. Are we going to do two things at once? Do we want to stay competitive? Do we want to develop? And I really think, and probably still do struggle with that question. And to your point,
yeah.
you have a ninth pick. Is this player going to be a rotational player? One would hope, but are they going to have the opportunity? To me personally, there's some talented names, 1 through 10, and there's a lot of possibility that maybe somebody in the top five can possibly fall. The draft is a crapshoot. Same with players living up to their potential, but I think whomever the Raptors select at 9, if you look at the competition coming off the bench, like let's assume the starting lineup is going to be IQ, RJ, Ingram, Scotty, and Yak, of course. Now we're getting a healthy Grady Dick. He should see some playing time.
Hmm.
Jacoby Walter has shown the ability that he could be a rotational player in the near future, so he's going to get some playing time. Jamal Shed, point of attack, defender, demon, you know what I mean, and has shown the ability to be somewhat dependable on the offensive end. So he's going to get some playing time.
Hmm.
Then you look down, you possibly Ochai, Mobo. Is this player going to be able to leapfrog those two just for the sake of conversation? I would say so. I would say so. You know what I mean? But it depends on
I mean, I would hope so.
you know what I'm
It's a
saying.
number nine overall pick, right? So
So you're and no disrespect to any of those guys with the exception of Grady Dick. Those are second round guys, right? But they have, again, not taking anything away from it with the or
well,
and also Jacoby and also
Ochai
Jacoby.
is yeah. I was gonna say Ochai specifically is actually I think 14th or something like that. So he was actually like
Really,
very
he was that high? I thought he
yeah.
was more in the
Let me
lower
actually
teens.
but he's definitely not. He definitely wasn't a second round pick. But yeah, 14th overall
Okay,
pick.
well there you go,
Don't
right?
ask how
So
I remember this stuff.
hey, that's off to you, sir.
We'll
But
just try to hold on to this memory as long as possible.
but
Um,
but but we're
yeah,
seeing these guys kind of fluctuate between being what they should be or what
yeah,
we think they should have been, or just kind of falling below those expectations. So there
right.
should be tremendous opportunity for this player, whomever it would be, and I really don't think the Raptors are in a position to be choosy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm so what based on the playoffs informing your stuff as well. Like what kind of player are you looking for, or are there like a couple names that you don't worry, I won't ask you in depth stuff for that, but I'm just wondering like yeah, where are you in terms of that?
I'm just looking for. I've always been the mindset when I'm drafting to
Mhm.
get the best player available. Right?
Okay.
You can worry about fit later. Get the best talent and see what you can do with them. So like Derek Queen is an interesting name. Same with Jeremiah Fears.
Hmm.
Though I did have a little back and forth with somebody on Twitter about his rim pressure. He's like, "Oh, he lives in the paint." And I'm like,
You're talking
um
about Fears
Fears,
specifically?
right?
Yeah.
But he's not like floaters, yeah, but like actually providing
Yeah.
that rim
He
pressure, not so
he
much,
he
but
gets
he
he gets to the
can.
rim actually. It's just it's right now it's the I mean he's 180 pounds soaking wet. He needs to put on as Bjorn would say he needs some Eto, he needs some ground provisions. I say he needs Wheaties, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes. So,
I I think for him, you're projecting like 2 years out. You
Yeah,
know,
no, no, no,
yeah.
no, absolutely. But again, a very talented player.
Mhm.
I think a play like Fear is just focusing on him for a minute. Having a twitchy guard, a young guard, like a young explosive guard. Like
Mhm.
you can even argue that we haven't had a player like that since Damon Stoudemire. You know what I mean?
I don't think we've had very many point guards, and I include Kyle Lowry in this, that have done like what he like that are of that type of archetype. They've just
Right.
we haven't had a lot of hyper athletic guards, and especially one that is above the height of 6'3".
For sure. Yeah, no, no, no. You're absolutely right. So where I'm landing on the type of player that we want and in relation to the playoffs
Mm.
is that I'm looking for I think one, the Raptors have always struggled with, leaning into one direction more than the other. We've always been defensive minded and very few offensive weapons. Then we were too offensive minded and didn't have enough defense. And
Yeah.
so they've always
Then
struggled
we
with
took
that.
forever to get a backup big, and then we finally got a starting big,
Yeah.
but didn't solve the backup. Yeah, I feel like I agree with that. Like we've always been, almost in a sense, like almost a step behind. Like we're very reactive in recent
Yes.
memory, and I
Yeah.
agree. I'd like to be proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. So get the best talent available, and I think that player should be somebody of two-way ability. I think that would be a great asset to have right now because we don't have a lot of great scoring options coming off the bench. Or you can lean more offensive minded with some shot creation. I think that is a huge benefit, which is why you traded for Brandon Ingram in the first place. But are we going to see the similar production coming off the bench? Is Jacoby and Grady all of a sudden going to be a shot creator next year? Probably not. Is Jamal Shed or Mobile or Ochai if he's still here? Are those guys going to show that? No. So what I'm looking for is that player to exist as he is. If you're bringing in a Fears, a Bailey, or you know what I mean, the other great offensive names in it, like, are you going to allow them to be who they are and just amplify that, or are you going to, put them in compromising positions where you're looking at them to, lean more on their defense and their offense? You know what I'm saying?
So the way that I look at it is this way, in terms of a guy like. I don't think he's going to be here, by the way, because I don't think he's going to fall that far. But say Trey Johnson. Trey
Yes,
Johnson,
another name I like. Yeah, Trey Johnson's
yeah.
solid.
So he does things that whether it's RJ, well, we'll get to RJ in a second, but outside of RJ, just for a second, because like Trey Johnson right now does not always get to the rim, and RJ does obviously, but he can create a shot at a level that is of the guys that he would be competing with for minutes, essentially. And so if you could add him to the team, even though there's like a minute crunch and even though it forces certain decisions to be made faster, it's worth it because the way that he projects out is just like currently from an athletic standpoint, from a shot making standpoint, from like a handling standpoint, from when he's down in the paint and he actually gets to the paint, his ability to like make plays out of there as a guard, we don't have that. We don't have that. And so it's something where there is a number of skill sets that exist in this draft, whether it be Kasparis, with his ability to initiate offense in a way that like we just if you're even going to run offense through Scotty next year, which I think it's probably going to be more a combination of Scotty and Brandon, IQ can't do. He just doesn't operate that way. He's not that type of a guard. You look at a guy like Maluwatch. Maluwatch has the length. I mean, you don't teach 7 feet, and you don't teach a standing reach longer than Wemby. That's just them things don't grow off trees, or maybe
Literally.
they do. I don't know.
Maybe.
You know, the list goes on. Fears with his ability to just He'd be the best handling guard on this team. Day one.
Mhm.
Like we don't have someone with those ball handling skills. Like it just the way that he just like kind of like goes in, you know, with different speeds and accelerations, decelerates like kind of like a hezzy into like speeding up into then and in between crossover and then into like a pullback and all while not picking up his handle, something you don't have. I mean, the list goes on. There's a lot of guys with talent in this draft for sure. And I think we'll get a good player regardless. So don't worry, I'm not all gloom and doom. But I think where I'm at is just, yeah, you said you hit the nail on the head. I think number one, best player available. Number two, I'm not into the drafting back because I
Oh,
just say
please,
just
no.
pick the dude that you want and pick the best dude.
Don't get
Uh,
cute.
yeah,
Don't get cute, nigga.
go get a second pick if you want. Don't or
Please.
move up. Because the one thing that my one thing that I always you know plead with Masai for, if he ever watches this, is if you trust your scouting, you've had moments where you've said, "I want Shea at the draft. I want Giannis at the draft." Go get the dude, whatever it takes. If you think that that guy is the guy, go take an extra pick or whatever within reason.
Yeah.
Go get your man. Go
Yep.
get your man.
I listen, brother. I'm with you 100%. Like, I don't think the Raptors are in a position to be hesitant,
Or
nor
to
do.
assume that you could always get the guy the next, because that's the thing. It's like, oh, well, I can get another Giannis. No, you cannot.
Yeah, yeah. No, you could get or you can teach players how to shoot. You know what
Yes,
I'm saying? Like that.
yes,
Those are
or
those
pass,
two
shoot,
things.
and dribble.
You know what I'm saying? So like
Yes,
so instead of and respectfully, I think every young player in the draft is going to be a project at some point, but
sure.
you do not want to be in a position as if you're the Raptors where you got to teach them everything. You
Well,
know what I mean?
it's like last year. I was like, if we keep the pick, please don't pick Salon. I was just like that's the point where it's like literally, it's like okay, you're literally gonna have a guy where I don't want Clay. I
Yeah.
not Clay Thompson, but
Yeah.
molding Clay.
Molding clay. Yeah, yeah, I get it.
And where listen, give me a prepackaged toy, a cool toy though. Okay,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's where I'm at. So yeah, okay. So we're about at the same spot. Of course, people always tune in. We do talk more in depth draft stuff, but yeah, to the getting to the close of this. I know that there's been some RJ rumors, and then there's one other question that I have for you. The RJ rumors are interesting. I kind of have avoided talking about them in depth because I like beyond. I'm like they're kind of non-news. I until they actually happen. I'm like it's. I just we don't do a lot of trades. Like I love how people do these three-team deals. I'm like we did one deal that was a three-team in Masai's tenure, and that was actually the Siakam deal for a guy that most people won't even remember was on the team and was the ultimate hoop grid man, which is going to be Kyra Lewis. Okay,
Yeah.
so like that was it. So for those of you that help hoop grid, you're welcome. So that's where I'm at. But the RJ rumors are interesting. Now, before we get into actual trade packages or whatever, I think the more important thing is why and why not. So I know actually Coach Roach actually put this in another person's podcast, but it's true. The Raptors have not really uh, done their part in terms of marketing this guy. Now, whether or not you actually think he's an all star or not is fine, but most of the time, most teams are marketing their two top tier players. And if he's a top tier scorer and he's one of the young guys, he's from the city, you would hope that they would do more to present this guy as on the poster.
Yeah, I agree. Well, first and foremost, it's disappointing to hear the RJ rumors because I look at the direction, whatever direction that the Raptors are heading in, and I'm going to focus more on the positive side that RJ embodies what the Raptors look for, and they have shown in terms of getting talent to this team. They're looking for character guys. They're looking for hard workers. They're looking for guys that are multidimensional to an extent. And I think RJ embodies that. Like when they needed him to be a scorer, he did that. When they needed him to be um an off-ball cutter, he did that. When he needed to be a facilitator, he did that. Anything and everything that RJ was asked to do, he did it, and he did it at a high level. You know, whether it was efficient or not, whether it was effective or not, he got the job done, and he's been the ultimate professional, right? And I look at it that you traded OG to get IQ and RJ, which in my opinion is still a great deal, and I'm probably doing that deal, 10 times out of 10. But you traded your best defender for at that time, one can make a case maybe the second or third best offensive option on the Knicks. And that's what the Raptors needed. They needed offensive firepower. And now you're going to potentially take that away. And unless you're getting, into the top 5 of this draft, you're probably going to be looking for a player of RJ's ability and skill set. And you have him under control, and I know the argument, and I agree. His value is the highest right now. But what's the better option? You know? So I'm of the mindset that if you traded for RJ, you wanted to see what he's capable of. Well, a year and a half is not really a long enough window or big enough window in my opinion. So maybe see where you're at going towards the trade deadline or All-Star break of this upcoming season and see where you are. But again, I'm hesitant to see because I feel that RJ is on the cusp of improving, and he has been improving. And we saw the improvement as the season has been going on, but we've also seen the improvement as the years go on. And I think we're gonna be shooting ourselves in the foot if we pull the trigger too early. But at the same time, too, if there's a great deal available, again, the Raptors are not in a position to um, really overthink things. You know what I mean? I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that.
So I'll start from the positive angle, and then I'll go to why they should consider it. But yeah. So for one, I just talked about earlier in this selling tickets and how ticket prices are down. This guy does sell tickets. There's people that support him, buy his jerseys, all that sort of thing. I think that that is not just great; it's important. I mean, the NBA wouldn't work if it wasn't a profitable business, and
Homegrown to on top of all that, right? So kind of
homegrown
sell
as well.
themselves.
So I think from that standpoint, there are reasons why RJ probably has, frankly, more value on this team than on most other teams because it's just he just does that's it.
Agreed. Agreed.
Um, at the same time, like my personal opinion is, I mean, I don't care. I just want to win. So it's like whoever, however, can go as long as it leads to like positive things, but like not necessarily like 10 years down the road. Like I don't want to wait,
Yeah.
you know. But for that reason, I don't think. I actually think that RJ's value is probably not at an all time high. I think it's kind of medium. I just think at the end of the day, and I'll say this with Ingram as well, you got to play both sides of the ball. And at some point, we need guys who can, it's not just the mentality and the talk is cheap. Being a good professional is great, but I need you to be a good defender. So if there are options for that, I don't think that there are, right, other than maybe possibly Giannis. But, and that's a whole other discussion for another day. But I'm not saying it would be RJ for Giannis, obviously.
Yeah.
It would probably have to be RJ and Scotty for Giannis. But I mean, most people would at least strongly consider that. I mean, but I think the thing with RJ is that I look at things in two ways. Number one, from a player's perspective, Like at some point, are you going to commit to this guy or not? I'm not just talking about financially, but I mean like, are you going to make him feel welcome? I mean, we heard rumors that he was. I also heard rumors. I just didn't talk about it on the podcast that he was offered in the Ingram deal, for example. We heard rumors of. We saw how he was not. The Blue Jays literally promoted him for our All Star before our own team did, and our own team still did not.
Yep.
Um, and at that point, it's like it's not really fair. It's like Boucher re-signing here as an op. I don't have anything against Boucher, but it's like at some point, man, it's like how many times is this girl gonna tell you no? Right?
Yep.
Like you can't keep doing this to yourself, brother. It's getting embarrassing. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's like that. The other thing too is I just feel that I agree with you about assessments come very quickly, but if you also don't want to be in a Malachi Flynn situation where you're going 4 years down the road saying, well, next year is going to be the one, or it's always something. I'm fine with RJ. I think his skill set to me, and that is his ability to get his shot off, specifically in the way that he does, is something that opens the floor up and something that we don't have really on this roster except for him. And that's if he's going out, I want a pathway to replace that. So
Yep.
that is him getting to the rim at will. It doesn't matter. Like teams will back up on him, not necessarily fully respect his shot, even though he shot better than he usually does on catch and shoots. And yet he still gets to the rim and still scores. And
Yep.
that's I know that there's an efficiency angle to this, but being a 20 point scorer and a true call it a bona fide 20-point scorer
Hmm.
is not something that is easy and is oftentimes taken for granted. It was taken for granted before this year, and I think it's still in some ways taken for granted. And so that's kind of like both my yin and my yang of RJ and why maybe why they probably will. Obviously, there's also the financial cliff element where I mean, are you going to pay the tax for this team? For that reason, I probably think there's other guys, depending on what moves are available, like Ochai, who may be on the chopping block this year, and we'll see. But I think at some level, um, that situation has to come to a head because I don't think I agree with you. If something happens with RJ, it's probably going to be in season, but I don't think you can go through say he comes out this year, and just from a health standpoint, other things, he's like the second leading scorer,
Yeah.
which is very possible,
Hmm.
and they don't promote him. That to me is an issue, and at that point, I don't. Like I said, I'm saying it's time to stop wasting people's time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that sentiment. And
See,
it's probably
I'm not
some.
taking sides. I'm just saying like I'm just
Yeah.
cutting through the noise and just saying like, look, no wasting people's times.
Yeah. No, calling it for what it is, and it was something that I have overlooked until you mentioned it, but yet still, he's coming out there and producing. And I think what's most impressive about RJ's game and your take is that he's a bona fide 20-point scorer without a post up, without a consistent 3-point shot, and
Or a
he's
mid
still
range game.
or a mid range
I
game, and
don't mean
he's
that as a slight, by the way.
yeah, no, but like you're absolutely right. So he's still finding ways to be productive, and like you can't teach that, you know. And to your point, if you're going to move on from him, are you going to find a player that's going to offer you that kind of ability on a consistent basis? Because and like players have bad nights, but I think what's been the interesting thing with RJ, and again, it didn't happen a lot, but he's finding ways to be effective when he can't contribute offensively. You know, um, he's not a great defender, but he's trying. You know what I'm saying? He's facilitating, he's rebounding, he's pushing the ball in transition. He's doing all the things that are very Raptors esque. And yeah, I think it's been very disrespectful for RJ. And if we're talking out loud, and if they're not going to appreciate or promote him as you suggested, then yeah, maybe it is time to move on for him just for that sake alone. But to your point, I think we're gonna be moving off of him too early because we haven't promoted him, we haven't put him in this positive light, and I don't think we're gonna get the return that one would probably expect for a player of RJ's ability and skill set. So that to me is very concerning.
For sure. I will also say that no matter what happens, I think William Liu outlined this in his segment on this, but yeah, I think just a straight salary dump doesn't make sense. And that doesn't mean I think people sometimes undervalue picks, but if there is a move to move up, fair enough. But I don't think just a straight salary dump where you're dumping him for salary and then cutting him and nothing else, that just doesn't make sense to me.
You
That's
mean
where
like
it's a little disrespectful.
you mean like the Marcus Smart deal that was suggested? I think it was by Bleacher Report.
What was that? I haven't looked at Bleacher Report's trade
Yeah,
imaginations in a minute.
I don't remember the exact the exact framework around the deal, but we would be getting back Marcus Smart. Let me see if I can pull that up. Hold on.
Yeah, I mean I mean, I know that the Washington Wizards do not have a lot of salary committed, so they could do that. I mean, from a standpoint of getting you down in money is good, but like that's closer to a salary dump. Now, I will say like Marcus Smart is a phenomenal defender, former Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's not too old. It would definitely change the dynamic of your team, but
Sure.
it would have to come with ideally something a little bit more.
Yeah, no, so I'm looking at the deal and it's RJ Barrett going to the Wizards, Marcus Smart, and a 2026 second round pick swap.
Can I get me like the 18th pick kind of a thing? Like,
Give me something else better than that, man. Like, come on.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'll interesting.
Yeah,
The way that I look at it is this way: just from the basic framework of like Marcus Smart, I'm not entirely against it, but you need to give a little bit more. Now
yeah,
you,
that ain't cutting it.
yeah. Now you wanted to. Do you want to talk about trades, or we don't have to? Because I know sometimes trades get a little bit long in the tooth. But
You know what? Let's talk about a couple. I know you had one, and we could talk about the one that I suggested.
yeah, so let's go through yours first.
Yeah. Okay. So again, hopefully your fan base doesn't kill me or the Raptors fan base kills me for this, but I was looking at it. If the Raptors are going to shift, as you mentioned, shift from this rebuild to, um, being in a team in contention, then go for the home run and say to instead of the base hit. Now, the Raptors have historically have been successful in getting players that had not so great seasons, injury plagued seasons, questionable seasons, and they somehow turn it around on the Raptors. So I was looking at a deal that it's probably hypocritical of me. If you are going to trade RJ, you package him with IQ to the Grizz, get John Morant and Brandon Clark. You get an additional big to replace Chris Boucher, probably a running mate along Mobile. Another player that has struggled to stay healthy, but he's Canadian. He has shown the ability to be effective on both the offensive and defensive end. And you have the star power, you have the rim pressure, and a bona fide hooper and a Jaw Morant. So on paper, your team is going to be Jaw, Bi, Scotty, and Yak. While and Granted, that's just for salary purposes. The Raptors, I believe, would save about 30 million. They'll be $36 million under the cap. So, which is great. So, it still gives the Raptors some flexibility. Probably Memphis wants some young players in return. Depending on the player, I would say you entertain it getting a player of Ja Morant's uh, character and ability. But RJ, another reliable offensive player. I think Memphis could definitely have benefited from that this season, and some outside shooting. We've seen IQ as to what he was as a New York Knick. Has it translated as a Raptor? No, but I think in that environment, in that offense, where he is going to have a lot more opportunities to shoot the basketball and maybe only slightly and better offensive sets, that he might potentially thrive, and plus gives the Grizzlies some new life. But I think the challenge, having looked at that deal even further, was having to pay Triple J. So I think there would be some financial um, hesitancy on the Grizzlies end. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I just put it through the wonderful fanspo, and it does work. Now, please don't worry. I kill everyone's trades,
I
including
don't.
my
I
own
won't.
sometimes.
I will not take it personally.
From the Grizzlies standpoint, because this is basketball rewind, it's not
Yeah.
Raptors rewind.
Yes.
From the Grizzlies standpoint, I think that they would probably not do this deal. And the reason why is number one, I think that IQ coming off a year where um, I know some people are like, oh, he's not injury prone and stuff like that. That's fair. But he still only played 33 games. And he just has a freshly minted $33 million a year contract where he is essentially getting paid all star money. Darius Garland is an all star, makes approximately the same amount of money as him. And that's a tough pill to swallow. I do understand the John Morant factor in all of this. Um, I do think it gets you from a talent standpoint and improvement. But again, honing in on the Grizzlies, because we talked about this before, I think they're looking to find a way to basically pay Triple J. He is extension eligible, and he will, if I'm not mistaken, he was all NBA again. So that would make him, you know, Supermax eligible. Potentially,
Yeah.
depending on what happens next year. Because I think it's 2 of the 3 years. I can't remember how far out you can win Defensive Player of the Year, but he has won Defensive Player of the Year before, and he will be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate perennially moving forward. So that's probably the main guy, but like that they're kind of building around and whatnot. But committing a whole bunch of money into IQ and RJ for the next 2 years while having to pay that is a tough pill to swallow. And that's where I think that this is probably a non-starter because they're looking for ways to get like a perfect way to get Brandon Clark would have been like Chris Boucher for Brandon Clark this year.
No, I agree.
But yeah, so that's my thing. I with these I ignore the whole like picks and trying to get into all of that, but just the basic frameworks of deals.
Yeah.
Um, the way the ones that I'm looking at is and just mine is say John Collins opts into his player option. I don't think that Utah wants him to, but he probably is not going to get that money on the open market. At least not this year, just based on who's there, unless Brooklyn really likes him. If that is the case, and you trade him for RJ, you save $2 million from a Raptors perspective. Oh, do you feel like I covered the Raptors perspective from the Memphis thing?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah,
only
yeah.
other thing I'll say is
I mean,
I don't like small point guards. Be honest, shifted me towards that, and I get it. And also, there's an injury. At some point, I just don't want like 3 dudes who might like people have talked about LaMelo, and I'm like, at some point, can we not have like an all street street clothes team?
yeah, yeah. All NBA street clothes team. No,
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
get it. I totally do. But talking about the health
Brandon
standpoint.
Ingram is just like, man, I just escaped Zion.
Um, Ja, before we move on,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he has only played over 60 games 3 times in his career. So
Yep,
the most games that he's played was 67. The
yep,
lowest being 9, but majority of that was suspension related, I
yep.
imagine.
Yeah, yeah, partially, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, actually,
yeah.
no, because he came back from the suspension. He played us when we still had Pascal, IQ, and everyone, and then
That's
he got
right.
injured like right after.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
he actually went down, like literally, like after that game, he was out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, yeah. That does ring a bell. So yeah. So I would get it, but like, but I think if Memphis
Yeah,
hypothetically was looking to move off, I think the Raptors should entertain it.
yeah,
I um like I said, for the reasons that I mentioned, a player that can get to the rim, brings that star power, brings some juice and energy to this team. Um, and also, we have gun control in Canada, so we would be in a good position
There's
to welcome Joe. I'm just saying.
there's a bit of a maturity of in his game that I think is lacking, and what I mean by that is not what people think I mean, but it's you can't be going and dunking on people all the time,
Fair enough.
especially when you're 6'2".
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
Dwayne Wade had to learn the hard way as well, right? So I'm curious
and
to know
he
if
and his knees ain't
yeah,
doing
yeah,
so good either.
yeah,
Although I will
exactly.
say Dwayne Wade was 6'4", which is the difference. But yeah,
And a slightly bigger frame, but in terms of
yeah,
that reckless abandon, yeah,
yes,
that you're alluding to, right? Jaw kind of embodies
yes,
the similar thing, but granted, different avenues to get to that point. So
yes. But yeah, no, no, no.
your
I
concerns
agree.
are valid. Yeah,
He is an incredible talent though. Now my deal is a lot simpler. John Collins opts in. RJ goodbye. So it's RJ for John Collins swap. People are like, why would you do that? Well, this is where I will bring in the picks as a framework. Is that it would be to move up to the fifth pick and get a guy like Trey Johnson, for example. Um, you know, and then the Utah Jazz could get something for John Collins, and also in theory it's basically almost identical money. Um, so at least they can kind of punt that down the road. And also they don't really have a lot of. They have some wing players. They have
yeah,
Laurie Markkinen, but they don't really have I don't feel like they feel like they've found the right wing player overall outside of Laurie Markkinen. So it's interesting. That's just a thought. But again, it would be the pick swap of this year for their. It's really to move up to the fifth pick if they deem a guy like Trey Johnson as
hmm
the guy. Like I said, he doesn't get to the rim like RJ, but I mean he's also like 18 years old,
yeah,
and so that's where I'm at. Ideally, what I'm hoping for the Raptors is some clarity on some of the issues, but also I really hope that we get some size on this team and more athleticism. Because to Beyond's point, he's not here right now, but we've really been lacking that twitchy, athletic person on this team. We have athleticism in some ways, we have strength, but I don't think we've had a lot of athleticism for a while, and that's something that I want to get back to. So yeah.
yeah. No, no, I agree with you, and I agree with Beyond. Just one question: Collins is his contract up after? I'm assuming with the opt-in, it's
Yeah,
up
just as
after
a
this
1 year
last
player
season.
option. So does he opt in to like 26.5 million or
Yeah.
not? And I don't think that he's going to get that on the open market. He'll get
Mhm.
paid, but I just don't think. And from a roster balancing standpoint, like he could slot in as your power forward if you wanted, and just everyone gets bigger that way for a
Yeah.
year, or he could be easily like a backup big. And honestly, like he's a bit of a tweener,
Yeah.
but all respect to Mobo and all that, like John Collins is just a much better offensive player today, and has the height and stuff behind him to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they're looking to compete, it's kind of a balancing thing, and that's how they can kind of, you know, split both roads and kind of like create some space for someone to develop,
Sure.
but also do the other thing too. So yeah,
Yeah. No, man. I'm with it. It's simpler. It's cleaner.
yeah,
And the Raptors will get a very talented player at five if the
yeah.
Jazz
I was
are
gonna go,
anything.
but
Yeah.
like with the
Shout out Ja. But yeah, and from Utah from Utah's perspective, they get a very good complementary piece to play alongside
yes.
of Laurie Markkinen, which is what you want. Like he is the guy on that team, so you might as well, finally surround him with some level of talent outside of Colin Sexton. You know what I mean?
They can also take a guy like say Khan is there, or more importantly, I think that the guy that they might be interested in, especially since he played in that area, but maybe not at pick 5, which is Yegor.
Mm,
That like a Yegor becomes interesting at pick 9, where it's like okay, it's where you're getting Yegor and a young piece. and
for
stuff
sure.
like that. So it really just depends. But I think that's a pod.
Oh
That's
yeah,
definitely a
oh yeah,
pod.
that was dope, man.
How to sign off? I want you to plug yourself, man. I will leave his stuff in the description down below. People like, comment, and subscribe here. But Curly, where can people find you?
Well, I'm available on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, iHeart. At Live by the 03 on Twitter, Live by the 3, a Raptors podcast. We do have a draft episode coming out soon, Kenya, and I hope you can be available for that. Get the band back together again with Mac from running off the screen, and yeah, so we definitely got a draft episode, definitely before.
The
This
25th.
yeah, definitely before the 25th.
It's
I'm hoping in
in my
early
calendar, man.
I'm hoping in early June we can get some stuff done. And I might be able to do two episodes, kind of focus on first round picks and then kind of like some dark horses or hidden gems, diamond in a rough episode, which I would
Yes.
definitely love for you
What?
to be available for that.
One of these days we will have to get we will have to get Nigel back and stuff like that because I love
Yeah,
those banter pods and stuff like that.
yeah,
So
we
I don't know if Nigel's willing to come back from racquetball or whatever, but
a pickleball, but I think
pickleball. Sorry, my bad.
I think for the season he was in his bunker. He did not want to see much of
Oh,
Raptor
I
basketball
thought you were
towards
gonna
the
say he
end.
got injured or something like
Oh
that. So
no,
that's
no,
good.
no, no, no. But yeah, please come check out basically a reaction based podcast. But like I said, we're going into draft stuff now, so
Uh,
gonna be pumping up that
what
draft
episode
content.
are
So
you on now?
I think like 280 somewhere around there, 279, 280. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
we've been consistent and the support has been tremendous. So I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody else. But yeah, check out I live by the 03 on
Well,
Twitter and Live by the 3 Raptors podcast.
yeah, and as far as Raptor podcasts go, like honestly, you're one of the ones that most consistent. B, you're give the raw, true fan reaction. Um, honestly, like people, I can't thank you enough because you're one of the people that has been around since I started as well. So appreciate it. Appreciate you. People checking stuff out. And when this comes out, I'm not going to say anything about the game that's going on, but what I will say is, we will be that much closer because, to getting to the NBA finals. So yeah,
Oh yeah.
take care, people. Peace and stay well.
Peace.